And look at that. We have a Cam Talbot shutout today against the Montreal Canadiens. Game 1. Oh, look. Oh my God. He had 4 saves after John Gibson let in 5 goals. John Gibson was pulled at the end of the or near the end of the second period with like a minute or 2 left, and it's just like great. Welcome to hockey season, man. Anyway, actually more so welcome to Undrafted Hockey Fan. Mostly do podcasts, but I'm doing a new thing this year. I want to record a video after every Red Wings game. We're doing a review. Just doing a quick 30 minutes. Maybe it's gonna be longer, but I just want to start talking about the Red Wings on a more consistent basis. I think they need more coverage. I think we get a ton of content. If you're looking at Locked On Red Wings, they do a great job too. But I just want to do more content about the Red Wings. I think about them all the time. I think about hockey all the time, and it's something I want to knock out. And they're a great time. I'm going to throw, if you're listening on audio, by the way, you can catch us on YouTube, hit like, subscribe, all that jazz. You know the drill, right? Comments, 5 stars, like all the podcasts say it. But let's jump right into it. This game was bad. It was. I mean, by the way, we'll start with the positives, right? We're gonna start the positives here. Those jerseys look phenomenal. Those Centennial jerseys look phenomenal, and we saw that it just looked great. I mean, I know some people were hating on the brown gloves. I'm actually a fan of them. I think they were really good. I think, again, the whole thing looked great. I liked, Larkin had the captain in the brown, like leather, it looked like. So I think it looks really good. It wasn't that Talbot's. It was Gibson's helmet was phenomenal. If you watch it when they do the Centennial again, look at Gibson's helmet. He did a phenomenal job. It's perfect. Unlike his performance tonight. There's just some softies and everything. So if you're talking about statistics, so he let in 5 goals, and there's a thing called expected goals saved average, right? So it's how much that you expect him to save, right? And so he let in 5 goals, but he could have saved. Like, so it's like 3.5, right? So the closer that the number is, it was negative 3.5, right? So if you have a guy who plays well, the number's higher, right? Because he's making saves that were expected to go in. In this case, if it's a negative, it's goals that he was expected to save. So he got 5 goals in, and he was negative 3.5, which is terrible. Did not look good. And a couple things I want to highlight here. I'm not saying it's an excuse here, but to me, Montreal Canadiens played last night against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So you're like, okay, maybe they're going to be tired, which is a factor, I guess. But to me, I don't see it as that. I see it as more like they got the rust off a little bit easier. That's why I don't like the first game being a home opener, because people overreact. Hence the reason you're watching this video and listening to this podcast is that I'm going to overreact because it's bull crap. It's just so frustrating that you watch a game like that. You're like, it just breaks your heart because you want the kids to be good. They have 3 new rookies who premiered as well. Like, you just want to be good, and you want everyone's, and the thing is, at the start of the season, everyone has a chance at the Stanley Cup. You're 0-0, no losses, no ties. It's like everyone's healthy for the most part, right? And so you're like, okay, these guys are gonna be good. It's so exciting. And then you're like, holy crap, that was terrible. And so we definitely know the Montreal Canadiens got beat last night by the Toronto Maple Leafs. And so when you're looking at something like that, they're like, I'm sure they wanted to bounce back, right? They want to bounce back hard. So that's not their season, right? So they're 1-1. And so they're a little bit more fire and pep. Red Wings are playing as, you have training camp and everything, but you're missing JVR, which isn't a huge factor there, but they did start Travis Hamonic, who had a bad game talking about so if you look at some of the statistics and everything, doing like plus minus and all that stuff, it was not good. So him and Albert Johansson were, again, just not good. What ended up happening was that they ended up having like negative. Let me look. Yeah, it's right here. So both Albert Johansson and Travis Hamonic were both negative. Again, plus minuses and everything, right? But both of them were a -3. So that would have 3 even strength goals shot or scored on them. Travis Hamonic only played 13 minutes. Johansson played 15. And so, and considering like Axel Sandin-Pellikka played 22 minutes tonight, he didn't get scored on at all when he was on the ice. Him and Evanson, no goals were scored while they were on the ice, on them while they're on the ice, right? You also saw like, again, plus and minus is not perfect, but it's just a starting. Plus and minus isn't a huge thing. And again, the reason I'm talking about plus and minus is because it's easy. You're a minus and the reason it's game one, right? So we're talking to some of the newer fans who haven't been along for the ride yet. So if a team scores a goal on you, you get a minus. If you're on the ice and they score while you're on the ice, you get a minus. If your team scores, you get a plus, right? So none of the Red Wings are positive, a lot of zeros, a lot of negative, a lot of negatives as well, right? But when you're seeing as it starts to grow worse, right? In one game, Johansson and Hamonic are -3. Not great, especially because they only played like 15 and 13 minutes respectively. So that's just an easy statistic right there. And it's 5 goals. And this thing is there's 4 of them were even strings. 1 was on the power play. So you kind of give us a little grace there. But to me, and the penalties weren't that bad. Like Montreal took 4 penalties and Red Wings capitalized on one of them. They did score on the power play. Of course, we know the Red Wings power play is phenomenal. You're looking at it. They do a great job, honestly. It's one of their strengths. Last year, they were 32nd in penalty kill, though. So that's something you want to definitely see improve. And again, they scored once on the power play, 3. It's nothing to freak out with yet. Power play goals give the other team an advantage as well. But to me, it was not impressive. And to me, it's the effort, right? I was telling my wife this when we were watching the game is that you're looking at a team and you're like, okay, if you're not going to, if you watch Miracle, he talks about this. He's like, if you're not going to be the best team on the ice, you're going to be the best condition. You're going to be the best skaters. You're going to be the toughest guys on the ice. So that's to me where the mentality is like, Montreal Canadiens, you play 4 times a year and they're one of the teams that are going through rebuild and you're playing them. You're 4 times a year. Again, we're hashing this out now. This is the first episode today. So you're not listening. If you're listening to this, I'm trying to establish the ground rules of like, you are like Montreal made the playoffs last year. Like they're expecting that they want to make the playoffs last year. They made the big move by trading for Noah Dobson, 2 first-round picks, right, and a player. So they're making moves. They're trying to sign, trying to bring in big guys. What did Yzerman do? He let the young kids come up, which is what everyone was asking for. Like bring the young kids up. But then you have to understand that if you bring the young kids in who did okay, they did pretty good. I liked Michael Brandsegg-Nygård's game. I didn't really notice Emmitt Finnie that much. He played a little bit, like he grinded a little bit, but he looked good. I mean, and it's a 7th round pick, right? So I think he just needs to get bigger. He needs to play a little more mean. But again, he's young. He's like 20 years old. So I'm not expecting a ton from there. I think Nygård looked pretty good. He had a couple of mistakes, but that's okay. Young kids are going to make mistakes, especially in the NHL when you're playing against these vets and everything. Axel Sandin-Pellikka didn't have a lot of mistakes, and that's kind of what you're looking for in a defenseman. Is you're like, hey, just don't make a lot of mistakes, right? And a forward, you're going to see more mistakes because they're carrying puck up and everything. I thought Axel Sandin-Pellikka looked okay. He looked a little nervous. He was kind of holding the stick a little tight, but I think overall he did really well. I'm skeptical of the pair of Edmonton and Axel Sandin-Pellikka because I think Edmonton wants to go up and up in the play, and so does Axel Sandin-Pellikka. So it's like that 2 styles are not going to match necessarily as well. But we will see with that. So, and it's interesting because Red Wings have some offensive guys. And, they have Jacob Bernard-Docker, Moritz Seider plays in power play 1. Axel Sandin-Pellikka is a power play guy. Like Simon Edmondson's a power play guy. Erik Gustafsson's a power play guy. So you have 5 guys in the power play that can play power play. So you need a little more defensively minded guys. That's what you're hoping with Travis Hamonic. That's what you're hoping with Albert Johansson. You're about Sherratt and everything. And that's why they rolled out Hamonic on the 3rd pair today. But to me, like you should put Aljo on the top pair and then Hamonic and Axel Sandin-Pellikka on the bottom pair. That's in my opinion. And so I was not impressed. It's an effort thing. And I say take a pound of flesh because that's like the mentality you need to go in. Like you're fighting this team. Like this is a trendsetter. And so when you look at some of the goals and the way they were scored, I mean, we can go over them, right? So we were looking at it. You look at the first goal. The first goal was Larkin. I mean, that's a sweet, awesome. Larkin takes it. We have it's on power play, by the way. You have Cider. Cider passes to Kane. Kane's kind of walking up near the faceoff circle and everything. Drops down below the goal line, right? And there's Cat is sitting in front. Larkin's at the point, kind of coming down at the top of the circle. It goes, and Kane lifts it up and over, right? And Kane or DeBrincat cannot, hit it in. It rolls to Larkin. Larkin takes it and rips a snapshot into the net. Sets the tone. I'm like, oh, sweet. 1-0. This is how you said it. It's in the first three minutes of the game, right? Oh yeah, awesome, sweet. And then, then a couple minutes later, so 7 minutes later, you had the Canadiens. They're walking it back. They're passing it back along their blue line, and the coverage of Hamonic on number 77. I'm learning the Montreal Canadiens names, but you're looking at some of these guys. You're like, okay, where's the coverage? So 77 is going off. And Hamonic's not watching him, right? He's kind of following him as he's going to the bench. What you don't see is 76 coming through, and he has breakneck speed. And mind you, you have Matheson passes it over to number 11. Number 11 passes Suzuki. I don't know. Matheson to Gallagher. Matheson to Gallagher, and Gallagher's on the neutral boards wall at the neutral zone. And you have sprinted up as Zach Bolduc, who has the second goal in 2 games, and he just breaks right past Michael Rasmussen. He breaks right past Hamonic as well. And this is where he got caught cheating. Travis Hamonic got cheating. And again, he's off to the races. He runs all the way to the goalie and snaps it just on the blocker side for Gibson. Frustrated with a wrister. I mean, Zach Bolduc is a great acquisition, by the way, for the Montreal Canadiens. So jealous because it was a great trade. Logan Mailloux for Zach Bolduc. I think Zach Bolduc is a better player, but Mailloux is an offensive guy. So you have Canadians have Noah Dobson and they have Lane Hudson. They don't need another offensive defenseman. Those two guys are going to be in the power play for the next 8 years, right? And so they traded him to Bolduc, and they won that trade, in my opinion. And St. Louis needed the defenseman, by the way. So now you have a game. It is 1-1. So you're in the first, right? Again, you're like, okay, this is gonna be fine. Like, hey, just chill, relax, everything will work out just fine. Now the play starts off in the in the Montreal zone. They're kind of walking it down. They're kind of just making the play. Then you have it's number 15. Comes up and it's an immediate break. So the thing is the coverage was not great. So you have Kane, you have Casper, and Casper, by the way, is trying to follow the guy. You have Albert Johansson tries to be a little more aggressive on the player, but then Alex DeBrincat takes the pressure. So on the back end, you have again Hamonic. Hamonic's up there, and that's the point. You have 2 defensemen, right? One, they both don't need to go back, right? But if you have one guy, he should be able to handle it and everything. And then it's a 2-on-1, number 15, number 91, going against Travis Hamonic. And it's a boom, pass across, and it's right in the net. So you have new hook to Kapanen. And Kapanen is a rookie, scores in his second goal in 2 nights. Again, he's doing really well. He's looking really good for the Montreal Canadiens. So going into, and we're finishing off the period. You're like, okay, we're okay. Just burn the rest of the time. No big deal. And then we're down in the Montreal zone. They're breaking out. You have Caulfield coming down the boards and everything. So he pauses, stops at the top of the circle, and he's being covered by Mason Appleton. And then at the point, you have Matheson who's coming down and just straight up, like he grabs it, draws Sherratt over, by the way, former Montreal Canadian, and then Matheson just snipes it. There's a ton of traffic in front, so Gibson couldn't even see it at all. So tough look there. And at this point, I think it's like 3 goals on like 8 shots. It's not looking good at this point. And so you're like, okay, what's happening? Like, what is the goal here? Like, the goal is to try and get as much in as you can. To me, this was a Gibson game that just did not look good. And again, you give a little grace because Gibson isn't used to the system. He's not used to how guys close. Also, there's so many new guys, right? So you have like Albert Johansson played 1 year last year, right? But he's still getting acclimated to the NHL game. Defensemen take a long time. You have Axel Sandin-Pellikka is, again, not used to this at all. Hamonick's new on the team. Like, there's the point of training camp is to iron some of these things out. And Hamonick, I don't know why they signed him, man. I would rather just have Jacob Bernard-Dockard. Personally, I just don't like. I think Hamonick will be good when you need someone to fight, but then you have Sherratt for Sherratt can fight some people, right? And so to me, I don't understand it. I would make a ton of change. I mean, I'm making changes almost immediately, right? I think on that bottom pair, you basically have your 5 guys, and then you swap in. Maybe you take out Albert Johansson occasionally, just to give him a rest or whatever. But like overall, he should be staying in almost every game. He just needs the reps and needs to get good. It needs to get better, right? I think his floor is pretty high. I think his ceiling's not as high, but I think he's a really good, effective player. And again, we saw how well he did on the second pair on his off wing with Edmonton last year. Maybe that's where he ends up landing, right? But I think they're trying to distribute the talent throughout the lineup, which is why you put Seider on the first pair, you put Edmonton on the second pair, you put Johansson on the third pair. That's how I see it, at least. So again, but now you're finishing the first period. It's 3-1 on your home opener. You're like, this sucks. It just absolutely sucks. And so, but again, there's plenty of time left. So you're like, okay, we can make this out. No big deal. So we'll cover goals 4 and 5 after this, unfortunately, right after our DraftKings break. So stay tuned after this. Listen, I know this is a mostly Red Wings podcast. It's honestly, it's an NHL podcast. And the preseason has started. But again, we haven't got to bet on any games yet. And you know what season has been starting, has been going for 4 or 5 weeks at this point? It's the NFL season. And for me, when you're talking about touchdowns, for me, my favorite touchdown is the next one. Because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown can bring you closer to cashing in. From first touchdown scorer to anytime TD props, or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. Here's the best part. You bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. And if you're looking for a team to bet on, Detroit Lions, I'm telling you, they're a team. They're the good team. And so for them, go check them out. They're plus 700 through DraftKings to win the Super Bowl. Again, this is not advice, but I'm saying if you're going to bet on the Super Bowl, go Detroit Lions. Come on, Jared Goff, let's go. And again, so if you need a product like this, it's what I'd use. Your team hitting pay dirt pays out to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Blue Hill Casino and Resort. Fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to win award. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. And we're back. And so one thing I want to talk about is we'll go with the 4th goal and the 5th goal. And so we'll knock those out real quick. I'm going into, so you're in you're in the second period and everything. You have Carrier. Carrier scores the goal here. So now you're down in the Red Wings end zone and you're passing it back. They get below the goal line with Gallagher. Gallagher passes it to the top, goes to Jack-Eye, and then you have Alexander Carrier rips it from the blue line. And this is just an unfortunate goal, right? This isn't necessarily Gibson's fault. It does bounce off of Albert Johansson and then gets going to the net. So that is kind of a tough look. Again, I don't necessarily blame that one on Gibson, but it's just like, once it's the 4th goal, you're kind of like, like, come on, like, can you get us a save, man? Especially for how many shots. There's 5 goals scored in this, and there's 17 shots by the Canadiens. So you want to get something lucky, and it just felt like a bad game, right? And it's hard when you're like, oh, just shake it off. Right? It's one game. You're like, yeah, but it's the first game. Like, you like to get a little bit underneath you, right? But mind you, like, if you think about this, all the teams, half of them are going to lose their first game. That's just how it works, right? So, it's kind of how it works, man. So it's a bummer. So, but anyways, probably because that's how numbers work. So, anywho, the last one we have, it's a power play. We have, of course. So then it was a drawback to the point. You have Cole Caulfield taking it, ripping it on the net, and it does. Gibson gets the first save, so he gets the first save, and so you have Aljo out in front, Albert Johansson, defending, and also you have Edmonton as well, covering that front of the net. But Edmonton's just getting off he's at the faceoff, so he's just getting to the dot, and so in the front of the net, the puck bobbles up. Albert Johansson's in front. You have two guys closing in on him. You have 76 and Yaroslav Slavkovsky, first overall pick in 2022. Yeah, 2022. He goes, bangs it in front of Gibson. So it's just, again, it's a bummer. It's a bad bounce. Like, it just ends up happening. So again, that's kind of where I see the last two as less of Gibson's fault, but you just, I don't want to make excuses, right? This goalie has been good. He's played really well before. And so you're like, I don't know. I don't know. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section or on Twitter. I'm definitely on Twitter as well. And so I just don't know what we want to happen. And I do want to pull up, if you're on YouTube, and the reason I'm going to pull this up is I want to pull up the hockey stats cards. And so to me, you can see that there's some guys that are like, so there's a difference between the eye test and then there's the stats, right? And so one's not always in like line with the other. Hockey stats cards. Stat cards. And so when you look at it, you're like, okay, hey, maybe it's not as bad as you think. And maybe guys didn't have as bad of a game as you think. So like when I'm like objectively, when I'm looking at my eye test, right, I'm watching the game, like, who had a bad game? And I'm like, man, Johansson and Travis Hamonic did not. Travis Hamonic got walked twice, right? And so you're like, okay, how did the kids look? You're like, oh, they look pretty decent. You're like, some mistakes here and there, some decent good stuff. But like, that's the idea around these, is that you can look at the stats cards and kind of verify what was happening in the game. So I'm gonna pull up the stats card again. If you're on YouTube, if not, I will explain it to you. So on the podcast. So pulling it up, we see that if you're looking at the chart, you can see, your top three guys: Edvinson or Dylan Larkin, Edvinson, and Axel Sandin-Pellikka. Guys had more offensive output than the on the game score. Game score is their data, right? Then so the game score for Edvinson, Larkin, and Axel Sandin-Pellikka were good, right? You're looking, and the nice thing is that Axel Sandin-Pellikka and Simon Edvinson both played like 22 minutes tonight. So that is good to see, right? You're like, okay, you're gonna play a lot of minutes and you're playing well. You're not a defensive liability, because Axel Sandin-Pellikka is like 5'11" or like 6 foot. He's not very tall. So that's why you put him with Edvinson, because he's huge. So, but again, you want to make sure that these guys are doing well. And most guys were kind of sticking around the middle, right? You had some, as you kind of tread down, Kane was all offense, no defense, right? Sider looked good, DeBrincat, and it kind of peters down from there. And the goal is you want to stay as like neutral to positive as you can. You start to see some trail off, like almost sort of one was starting to get a little worse, but it wasn't hugely impactful. Brandsegg-Nygård did okay as well. Again, Ben Sherratt. But then, mind you, like, this is like two standard deviations. So you're like, if you 0 is good, 1's better, 2, 3 is better, right? All that stuff. Then you guys, if you go negative, it's you're not making a good impact, right? So you go -1, Albert Johansson and Hamonic are there. If you go -2, Albert Johansson and Travis Hamonic are there. If you go -3, Albert Johansson and Travis Hamonic were there. Their team defense above average was not good, right? So for the average defense of the team, they were just way low. They just because they brought down the average for how bad they were doing. And so Johansson's like a 3.25. Travis Hamonic's like a 3.75. And so both negative, by the way. And so you're like, it's just hard. It's just like, you're like, man, like these guys did not show up. There was such a weak link there. And to me, this is where I'm very for. I'd rather have the younger guy in Jacob Bernard Docker, another right-handed defenseman that you picked up for a phenomenal deal, because this guy can be a proven commodity. Well, there's a higher upside, right? You know what Travis Hamonic is. Like Sens players talked about him all last year. They're like, wow, like, thank you for letting him come in our division. Like, that's great for us, because he's not up to the same par as what you would see. Like, because to me, like, not the same, what he is. And that's kind of why I sign him. It's like, hey, you have a veteran guy you can bring in, you can probably waive, and no one's going to claim him. So it's like, you have the option. But to me, I'd rather like, I like the unknown quantity. Like, mind you, like, I know you didn't draft for Jacob Bernard-Docker, but like, he's a former first-round pick, and he's still young. He's like 24 years old. You're like, dude, take a shot on him, right? Like, you've already waived like all your right-handed defensemen that you have in like your accessibility is you have like Justin Hall. Well, that didn't work last year. Travis Hamonic, an older Justin Hall, like currently, right? He just maybe he just had a bad game. Maybe he's better, but like based on the based on the evidence last year, it just wasn't working out. And then again, the other right-handed defenseman is you're like, oh, a young kid, Jacob Bernard-Docker. He looked good in preseason. I thought he looked at a really good preseason. And so to me, I think he starts Saturday. I think he for sure starts Saturday. And so we will see. Again, then I say the upside is the kids looked all right. Again, I want to see a little more out of Emmitt Finnie. Again, I thought Nygård played well, even though the stats, the counting stats, or the stats don't say it. And Axel Sandin-Pellikka looked good as well. So again, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the young kids. That's the upside. The thing is that I actually had the Red Wings making the playoffs in the 5th spot in the Atlantic as a second wildcard team. And to me, and I actually have Montreal missing. And I don't feel very confident about the prediction right now with what happened tonight. So anyways, we're going to wrap up and everything. So let me know what your thoughts are and hit like, subscribe. I really appreciate you jumping in. But I'll catch you in the next one. I love you guys. First one of 82 games. So thanks for sticking around. Can't wait to do several more recordings for you guys. I love you. Catch you in the next one. Peace.